Good evening, everybody, or whatever time zone you're in. Welcome to the Astro Imaging channel for March 29th. Tonight we have Frank Marek, who you may know better as Seti Astro, who's going to be talking to us about SASPro. Before we turn things over to Frank, our next program is on April 12th. No, April 19th, where David Stearns is going to be talking to us about narrowband processing with the scripts in PixInsight. So that should be a good one. So we'll be off for the next 2 weeks and back after that. And as always, if you have an idea you'd like to present, this channel works because all of you present your ideas. I mean, if they let me talk, they'll let anybody talk. So with that, we'll turn it over to Frank, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yes. All right. I'll share my screen.
All right, we see it.
All right. As Linda said, I'm Frank Marek. A lot of you guys may know me as Seti Astro, and I think I did talk on the Astro Imaging channel a long time ago. So I'll just do a brief intro to myself and kind of where all this started. So prior to astrophotography, I was in the U.S. Navy, nuclear electrician on submarines. Not a whole lot of night skies there. But promptly getting out in 2010, I started astrophotography. I had one of those really, it was just a toy like Tasco 50 millimeter refractor, you get from whatever, like Walmart or something. And I took a picture of the moon with my cell phone at the time and got hooked, right? So here's me up in the corner. I was at the last solar eclipse, brought the family along. It was a lot of fun. And then kind of my day job, work in the industry. We service very large electric motors and generators, repairing them. So there's a big 15,000 horse unit in the background there at an air customer there. So that's a little bit about me. And how all this kind of got started is I don't know how it all happened, but PixInsight in my YouTube, I started making little tutorials for PixInsight, and some individuals asked how I do certain things, and a lot of people at the time were using like ChatGPT as a gimmick to try to, I don't know, make a script for their YouTube or something like that. And I was like, well, I bet I could use this and help me code a script in PixInsight. I have no coding experience. I don't know anything about JavaScript, but I thought I'd ask it, and I really just started off with like, hi, are you familiar with the Astro software PixInsight? And just kind of started a rapport with that and asked it about JavaScript and trying to make a script. I knew what I wanted to do and just kind of had a bunch of banter back and forth. Most of it was errors, but that's kind of what I got out of it. And then there was also really another great resource by Roberto Sartori, who's actually one of the contributors to PixInsight. He has a great intro to actually scripting within PixInsight, which was a huge help. So that was kind of a stubborn person, me wanting to do some stuff in PixInsight to help some other individuals. And the question around it really was stretching stars. How do I stretch my stars only image? I knew what I did. I would take histogram transform. I would pull the mid-tone slider down to about 1/4, and I'd hit the blue square a couple times until the stars were bright enough that I thought it was good. And I was like, I should be able to script this in a nice way and make it happen. I didn't know much about histogram transform at the time, but there is the XISF documentation, and anybody that's ever used PixInsight knows XISF. It's their file format for their images. And it's a full imaging spec. So they have, you know, a great document here that talks all about the image format. But really importantly for me, kind of scrolling about halfway down, is they have what the mid-tone transfer function's actually doing. And it's just this little equation here. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, how STF actually works in there, but I didn't need any of that. What I really wanted was just that mid-tone transfer function. And I knew I pulled it down to a quarter, right? So I could just plug a quarter in and see what equation I get out of it. And then, you know, if you just hit the button a couple times, all you're doing is kind of recursively cycling that equation. So I just put that output back into the equation and, you know, simplified it back down and did that a couple times. And the math nerd in me right away saw 3, 9, 27. Okay, those are just powers of 3. And then 2, 8, 26. All right, those are powers of 3 minus 1. So I was able to take this kind of recursive relationship and make an equation for it. It's just a nice analytic equation where you can type in like 4.5 and it will be the equivalent of you hitting the blue square 4.5 times per se. And that was the basis of Star Stretch. And that was my very first script. And then about that time, I was also a little frustrated with STF in general. It tends to overstretch after you denoise your image, right? Everybody's experienced that. When you denoise your image and then run the STF, it just goes crazy. The other option out there is hyperbolic stretching. A lot of people love it. It's kind of clunky if you're trying to go linear to non-linear with it. And importantly for me is it's never reproducible. You can stretch your image from one day to the next using GHS, and you won't get the same exact stretch unless you wrote down the numbers you actually utilized in that stretch. It was all by eye. And I just wanted something that was very reliable and reproducible for me. And I realized I could take this equation and rearrange it and solve for the amount. We have our endpoint, what we want our target median to be. We know what the median of the current image is. So all you got to do is solve for the amount. When you do that, you get this really ugly solution with this log and this log 3 and all this stuff. But that doesn't matter, right? Because the computer's gonna do the calculation for us anyways. It's not like we got some slide rules or some log tables we got to deal with, right? So that was the basis of statistical stretch in its core, was just using that rearranged equation to give us an exact stretch to a target median every time. Completely reproducible, right? There's no guesswork. It's a singular analytic solution to the stretch. And then from there, I always figured it was just like a springboard. It just did your linear to nonlinear thing. And then from there, use GHS or curves or whatever, right? To tweak it however you want. But those are kind of the basis of it. And after it came out with statistical stretch, it turned out a lot of people used it. If I would have known it would have gotten popular, I would have called it something different. I hate the name statistical stretch. I wish I would have named it something different, but it's too little too late at this point. And then some other scripts from there, it just kind of exploded outwards. I was imaging with Acro refractor at the time, and I had terrible RGB stars, right? The blue especially was just hugely bad, and my narrowband stars looked good. So out of necessity, I wanted a good way to take my narrowband stars and create RGB stars. And so I came up then with the narrowband RGB stars script. It's really simple, but it does the job. And I've found a lot of people started using that as well. It just works, and that's really what you want from a script. It doesn't need to be overly complex. Some other things that were happening around that time too. There was an individual that was making a background script, and they were really brute forcing it and essentially checking every pixel, and it took forever to find the background of the image. And working with him, I was like, we could do something a lot smarter. We could use gradient descent and solve this thing really, really quick. And it's the same idea actually in training neural nets. You'll hear that term gradient descent come out a lot, but all it really means is you take your image, and then the bright points you just consider higher up on a hill, and the dim points are lower down in a valley, and you just like drop a ball and let it roll downhill, and wherever it meets the bottom, you call that the background. For the fine background script, it is smarter than that. We use, kind of multiple balls, let them roll down the hill in various other areas, and there's more nuance in the background, but it quickly solves that. And during that time too, there was some other gradient solutions that were coming out for gradient correction, and I honestly didn't like any of them. I thought the best way still, and even to right now, the best way in my mind to do it is using something like DBE, or in Graxpert, the manual RBF method. It's tedious. You got to put down all your own points. You got to, figure out where you want those points and all that. And I realized I could use the same method here of gradient descent and kind of do it in one go. I could place, I don't know, a couple hundred balls on the image, let them all roll downhill. And because they were rolling downhill, they naturally avoid bright nebula, stars, things of that nature, to find the background. During that time, somebody did bring up the fact on, well, dark nebula. Maybe I don't want a bunch of points in the dark nebula. And so I added some exclusion boxes that you could do in PixInsight. And then you'll see later in this in SASPro, it's way nicer in SASPro, just because it's not limited to the PixInsight scripting environment. But it's the same idea. In order to then correct the background, it does it all kind of automatically for you, and it's still running that core gradient modeling without AI taking a guess, or other various methods that are in PixInsight now, like the gradient correction process, which that and Graxpert can easily strip data out of your image, brightness out of a galaxy, structure out of your nebula. So I always thought that kind of this method was, in general, a better method to go about it. There are some other ones. Fame was out of necessity as well. If anybody's used PixInsight masks and trying to actually like get a mask that you need, sometimes it was really hard. There was the game script, which is the Galaxy Adaptive Mask Editor, to draw ellipses around galaxies, and that works okay. There's also the multi-point option in it, and if you've ever tried using that multi-point option in game, it is terrible to use. It's hard to grab those little boxes to actually put your points. You end up making a bunch of extra points. You can never get the shape of it right. So I came up with the Freehand Adaptive Mask Editor, where you can just draw it. You can also draw ellipses or boxes and things like that. And again, that was just really out of necessity for me to get a mask of a particular shape. Another fun one I did in PixInsight, again, mostly out of necessity for myself, was my blemish blaster. So there's the clone stamp, and those of you that have ever used the clone stamp, sometimes it can be finicky. We'll just say that to get a sample background to match exactly the target you're trying to replace, a lot of the time it really does look ugly. So for blemish blaster, I thought about it a little bit differently. Again, kind of just automate it. When you draw a circle around a blemish you want to remove, in this case, these are little lens flares from this individual optical train. All it does is then draw the 6 tangent circles to the circle you draw. and then it chooses the 3 best circles it thinks is the best, pretty much just based on brightness. So if there's a really bright area and some dimmer areas, it's going to pick the other ones. And then it's going to look at the 3 pixels in each of those 3 circles and just take the median of them, the middle value. And pixel by pixel, it's going to build up the inner circle based on the content of those 3 other circles. So I say it's content aware because it's using structure from the surrounding circles. It's not AI. It's not guessing what's behind there with that. It's building it by the content surrounding. Because of that, it's, will it be exactly what would have been there? No. But, when you're removing a blemish like that anyways, my end goal was, given this image, could you show me where the blemish was? If you can't tell me where the blemish was, problem was solved, right? So that was really the end goal with that. You're just trying to remove something ugly in your image and use the structure that was surrounding it in order to replace it. Another one, I'm a big science nerd, and I love exploring what's in my image after I'm done with it. So I mean, part of the hobby for me, yes, is making a pretty picture, but the really exciting part of it for me is exploring actually what's in your image, what science is in there, what can you find that you may not have known was in the image to begin with. And I had somebody ask me, for, like, shortly after I made this script, I don't know, a year ago, when you're imaging an area, don't you already know everything that's in it that you're taking an image of? And my answer was a resounding absolutely not. Like, absolutely everything in your image before you shoot that area of the sky, because there's a ton of stuff. There's quasars, there's really dim galaxies in the background, there's sure stars, but what about those stars? Are there eclipsing binaries in there? Are there emission line stars? Like all these different things. And so this was, I thought, something really fun in PixInsight. You're going to find the what's in my image in Seti Astro Suite Pro is, it's a lot better. It can do a lot more things. And a lot of that just comes down to the limiting structure of the scripting environment in PixInsight. And then I had some other scripts. I got a lot of scripts in PixInsight now, but another one that I really like to show and promote is the Perfect Palette Picker. And it really is because most of the objects we image have probably been imaged tens of thousands of times. If you go on AstroBin and look at like the Eagle Nebula, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of images of the Eagle Nebula out there. And a huge amount of them are going to be in, these traditional palettes, whether it's just an RGB or an SHO palette. And I really wanted people to know that there's other palettes out there. Just because Hubble used one doesn't mean other telescopes didn't use others in the past. And maybe you want your image just to be different, to stand out a little bit more. So the Perfect Palette Picker it gives you a bunch of options of all these different palettes from, these various combinations of H, S, and O. I have I got 2 different realistic palettes in there, and then a 4X palette as well. And I'm finally starting to see a lot of people use a lot of these different palettes, which is great to see. There's an individual on my Discord that loves HSS. They look super cool. There's a lot of red and this ghostly white, and he's getting like crazy good at doing it. And it's just cool to see some of these other takes on a lot of images that, otherwise have been done thousands and thousands of times. And I could pull up PixInsight really quick and just show you guys under scripts, if you got them. I just got a bunch of stuff in here. There's star spike tools, there's frequency separation, I've integrated my cosmic clarity stuff into it. There's the blind solver 2000 signature adder. So there's a bunch of things. Definitely worth grabbing. I guess I probably should have started where can you find me and all my stuff to get anyways. So now might be a good time to do that. SetiAstro.com. It's an easy website to remember. If you're looking for PixInsight scripts, I got PixInsight scripts. You can go to it. It has the URL to add in PixInsight to actually get the scripts. And then if you're looking for other things, I have, and this is where you can get Seti Astro Suite Pro as well. And I got some various other things. I'm sure most of the viewers here know how to add scripts into PixInsight, but if you don't, really quick, if you go to resources, updates, manage repositories, this is where you add the URL that you find on my website. Clicking the URL is just going to take you to a 404 bad link error. This is the spot you have to add all these scripting URLs. After you do that, you'll have to go to resources, updates, check for updates. It'll find the update, and then you'll have to restart PixInsight in order to apply those updates. So really nothing new with how to do that, but if you haven't seen that before, it's worth knowing.
I did put the links for the repository and your website into the video description.
Oh, okay, great. And
Frank, what is the difference between PixInsight scripts and Seti Astro Pro?
Yeah, okay. So scripts in PixInsight, I have these scripts, and scripts are standalone tools to use in PixInsight, right? It calls upon, in general, it calls upon processes that are kind of already in there and does a certain order or certain math on your images in order to manipulate them in PixInsight. Seti Astro Suite Pro is, and I'll show you guys in a second, is a complete standalone astrophotography and science platform. Very much like you would consider PixInsight its own astrophotography and science platform. So although I have some scripts in PixInsight, Seti Astro Suite Pro is its thing, and you will find, well, all the scripts are built in SASPro and a lot more. Did that answer the question?
Yes. Is there a charge for that, or is it free to download?
Yeah. So I guess that kind of leads me right into the next slide here. I have PixInsight. Should I get Seti Astro Suite Pro? Yes. It's free. So going over here, Astro Program, Seti Astro Suite Pro. It's up to version 1.13 now. It is free to download and use, although it does take, it took an immense amount of work for me to create this. So I do have a donation page right front and center, but you can go ahead. There's download options, which are traditional OS installers. And then I got a bunch of free practice data here. And then there's even, for some more tech savvy users out there, you could just do pip install Seti Astro Suite Pro. We'll do that. So I have a pip repository. And then the GitHub as well, where it lives, is publicly accessible. And you could just build your own Seti Astro Suite Pro directly on your machine as well. I do have some things here about, performance and storage recommendations. It's pretty much, I say it like this. It is as computationally as complex as PixInsight. So any hardware recommendations you see for PixInsight are the same recommendations I give for Seti Astro Suite Pro.
And does it work on a Mac?
Yes,
Mark
it sure
wants
does.
to know that. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Yeah. So it is cross-platform available for Windows, Apple Silicon Mac, Intel Mac, Linux, Ubuntu 24.04 or greater, and then 20.04. So it's 5 OS agnostic, I guess you could say. Five different OSs. In fact, I'm not a Mac guy at all. But in order to compile it, you need a Mac. So I went and bought 2 different Mac Minis, one Intel version, one Apple Silicon version, pretty much the bare bones Mac possible, just so I can compile Seti Astro Suite Pro for the Mac users out there. And then for Linux, same kind of thing. I've run 2 different virtual machines on my desktop in order to compile them for the Linux users as well. So you have PixInsight, even if you don't really plan on leaving PixInsight for stacking and processing. There's a lot of things in SASPro that aren't in PixInsight that you could absolutely benefit from having it just as has other software in there. One of the big ones is my blink comparator in there has graphical culling and options to manipulate your files right in the blink tool. So well, I'll show it. It's a blink tool. You could blink through your stuff, but you could flag bad frames right from there. There's a graphical way to like adjust your thresholds and flag bad files. From there, you can move all the flagged files to a different folder if you want. You could delete them all at that moment if you want. So there's that. Image is new. There was a white paper that came out last October about multiframe deconvolution. It was kind of handed down to us by the omniscient actual astronomer gods on that process. It's a new way of stacking, and I'll talk about that more as well. And then there's a bunch of kind of sciencey tools in Seti Astro Suite Pro. I have my own wave scale HDR and dark enhancement. Glimmer is isophoto modeling for galaxies. Like I said, there's the upgraded What's in My Image that does 3D modeling and HR diagrams. I have an Exoplanet and Hunter in Transit detector. It can do planetary stacking, live stacking with like mono palettes and stuff in there. There's AstroBin and Fits tools that are just time savers, man. Getting it for the AstroBin tool alone is great. You could do layers in Seti Astro Suite Pro. Masks are super easy to work with, and just tons of stuff. So I was going to highlight some of these, and then maybe we'll jump over in there. But the first is, like I said, the blink comparator. You load up all your images like you would. You can, use the arrows, or you could play through them. You could flag them really quick, but really cool is when you do the metrics, these red bars, you could just drag up and down. And you could drag, you want a minimum star count, you could just drag those up. Full width, half max, you just drag that down. And it just flags the bad subs then. And then over here, you could just right click, move all flag subs to folder, or delete all flag subs and just clear them out. It's just so nice to work with. I mentioned the AstroBin exporter. This is just a big time saver. So AstroBin, if you aren't familiar with it, it's a way to load up a picture for people to view. Part of the step in loading up your picture is they want your acquisition details, what filters you used, what nights, how many subs. And if you are doing all that by hand, it is a pain, especially if you've done a bunch of multi-night sessions. Those of you on the call that use AstroBin know exactly what I'm talking about. But the exporter is really great. You just add all your lights to it, and it does the whole work for you. It gets all the dates. It has a filter manager in there, so it has all the mapping to the AstroBin filter numbers. It parses out the number, the duration, your gain, all this stuff. And then the CSV preview down here, you just click the copy CSV right here, and you paste that into AstroBin, and it does all the acquisition work for you. So you literally just load your files and then click copy CSV, and you could do that into AstroBin, which is just a great time saver. Another really nice tool in there is Fits Header Modifier. Hopefully you never ever have to modify your Fits header. That said, when you need to do it, it could be a big pain in the butt, especially if you have to do it to all your files. And I could think right off the bat, things like the Celestron Origin, they have the wrong Bayer pattern in their Fits header, and they still haven't fixed it yet. So you have to, if you want it to use those Fits files outside of the actual Celestron software, you have to modify the header to have the correct Bayer pattern in there. And in SASPro, it's just super easy to modify your Fits header and batch modify hundreds or thousands of files really rapidly with that. And again, I hope you never have to modify a Fits header, but it's there if you need it. Like I said, I have layers in there. It's just one of those things that's very, very familiar for people that use Photoshop and GIMP and those kind of tools. That's lacking in some other astrophotography software. Masking, I made purposefully super easy in Seti Astro Suite Pro after kind of the difficulty of it in PixInsight. So you could easily freehand masks, but built into there are color masks, range selection masks, binary masks, star masks. They're just all in the drop down. You just choose the one you want and get your mask that way. Also, any image could be a mask unto itself. So you could even just drag an image onto itself as a mask for an immediate lightness mask. And then you could do the same kind of fun manipulations like Control-Shift-I to invert the mask, Control-K to show and hide the mask. All those kind of familiar operations you could do as well. Image was a new stacking, like I said, and that's incorporated in there. So if you want to try it and you have PixInsight, don't delete your registered files. You could dump those registered XISFs directly into Stacking Suite and give Image a go. It, I think, is just an amazing thing, and here's why. For, I don't know, 20 years, everybody's been stacking essentially the same. You know, you take all your images, put them on top of each other. Sure, we've gotten some fancier rejection around outliers and things like that, but at the end, you're just averages together. And then drizzling came out, and that's a good way to upsample your images. And that's a different way of stacking as well. And those have kind of just been the options the whole time. Well, Image or Multiframe Deconvolution kind of goes at it a completely different way. And there was a white paper by Suckerdeep et al. That came out, like I said, like last October. And I made it a point pretty much shortly thereafter to incorporate it into Seti Astro Suite Pro. I wrote my own white paper on implementation of it for us amateur astronomers out there. And Molly, I'll make that link available for you guys for my white paper too. But I just made it out for everybody. So anybody trying to get Image algorithm going out there, hopefully that gives some nice groundwork for it. But what it does is it takes the seed image and then all your other subframes, it runs this whole guess and check thing. There's a set of convolutions it does on the subframes, and it guesses the amount of blur and tries to sharpen the seed image based on that blur it learned from the subframes in order to recover the detail that was lost due to atmospheric seeing, aberrations in the optical train, all these different things. And it ends up giving you a sharper image overall, but slightly noisier. So you can see that there's a little more noise on the left than the right. And that kind of just is how it works. And you can kind of see that here too, where the normal stacking is on the left, and then Image is on the right. the right image is sharper, there's more detail, there's more structure immediately in your master stack, even if on sometimes there's a little bit more noise. And I tell people, don't be afraid of this. Noise isn't necessarily a bad thing, first. And we have a million ways to deal with noise now. We have immensely good denoising algorithms out there, whether it's NoiseX. I made my own Cosmic Clarity denoise. Psycon has Prism out now, right? Noise can easily be dealt with. What is harder to deal with is native, sharper image directly out of your stack that's not relied on anything else besides the data in your image. It's a new, yeah.
Okay, so I think a lot of us are interested in various things, but how does this differ from the sharpening tools in PixInsight that use AI?
Yeah, so this image is stacking. This is an actual way to stack your images, not sharpen an already stacked master is the big thing. This is how the professionals do a lot of their stacking now. And the only reason us amateurs weren't handed it earlier is it takes a lot of processing power to do it.
So is this a selection within this program where?
Yes. Yeah, it's in my stacking suite. So Image is not in PixInsight. They haven't implemented it in any of their integration or WBPP or anything like that yet. So that's
it's not something that you can add as an extra script.
No, it is not.
We have some other questions that have come up.
Yeah,
you want to take them now?
Yeah, I was just going to get to those. So would SASPro run on a new MacBook Neo, whatever that is?
Yes. So the answer is yes. Yeah, Apple Silicon, those Macs, yes.
And John at Astra wants to know if you can stack right from Nina.
I don't know what he means by that question. Stacking.
John, could you explain yourself in the chat, and we'll get back to Frank later?
Okay.
Thanks. That's all the questions we've got live right yet.
So you covered a lot of things, but this seems like a real game changer, because a lot of the things that you described for us Photoshop user, there are different ways to address the same thing, but this kind of changes things. Would you agree or disagree? And I don't want to overstate it, but this is different.
Yeah. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think multiframe deconvolution as a new method of stacking, actually integrating your images, is very important. Like I said, we've been doing it the same way for like 20 years. This is brand new for us amateurs. This has only been in the professional sphere up until me doing it in SASPro. And again, it's baby steps. This is almost like when drizzling was handed down to us from the Hubble team or Lucy Richardson deconvolution. This is still early days with this. Up until last week, there was no way of rejecting any pixels in MF deconvolution. So the actual algorithms that were utilized by the professionals in their white paper, they actually don't have any pixel rejection in there. So I always recommended to people, make sure there's no satellite trails in your subs. Make sure you do a good cosmetic correction that there's no hot pixels. Yes, those pixels will be downweighted in the multiplicative updates of Image but they're still going to be there. And then last week, I actually updated my white paper because I introduced rejection into Image and this is the first baby steps in actually improving this algorithm. So much like drizzling, where it runs normal integration first to build rejection maps for each subframe, I do that as well for Image runs normal integration first, gets all those rejection maps from whatever rejection algorithm you had chose, and then feeds that into multiframe deconvolution. It still creates a seed image, but during the multiplicative updates, it can use those maps to downweight and actually reject individual pixels during the multiplicative update in both the numerator and denominator. But
so will it reject these very faint satellite trails?
if your initial rejection maps had them reject it, then yes. So it kind of comes down to how aggressive you were with rejection in your normal integration, such that you are rejecting as much as possible. The other good thing with ImageMM is it will absolutely downweight anything that wasn't rejected, but is still an outlier. But if your normal integration didn't reject it, it has no way to know that based on the rejection mapping. But that was only last week. So, I mean, this is it's a brand new way of stacking. And again, it's not post, master light trying to sharpen it. It is making a sharper stacked image out of the gate for you, just right off the bat. And since it is so new, and I think SASPro is still the only one that has it actually implemented, there's going to be a bunch of smarter people than me that are going to be able to improve this thing way beyond what I've been able to do here in these first initial baby steps of initial implementation, and now getting some rejection mapping into there. So I'm excited for this. It's almost like we're seeing stacking for the first time in a completely new way.
So is there any weighting here, or is weighting just thrown out with it replaced by this process?
It's replaced by this process. Yeah, there's the image weights like you would get from measuring the individual subframes are not utilized in multi-frame deconvolution. The weighting is done through its own system of weights. So there's both noise variation maps that weigh the subframe based on the noise structure in each subframe across the frame. And then there's also PSF weighting maps that analyze the PSF structure through, across your image for each subframe. So there's a lot going on in ImageMM than just giving a single frame a single weight that you're going to include into it.
So
and that's
is it behind the curtain, or are there sliders or adjustments that you make?
Nope. It's there are some sliders, but all the weighting and stuff is the process.
By the way, I always like it when someone agrees with me completely. That's pretty unusual in this hobby.
Well, you're the first person that got excited and said it. So.
Well, I mean, we try to kind of pick out morsels, and as you're going through this, I'm going, wait a minute, this is different.
Yeah, this is new. This is different. Very much so. And like I said, there are some sliders where you can adjust the aggressiveness of the multiplicative updates. So you got to be careful with that, though. If you have a fewer number of subs, I recommend like 64 as the minimum number of subs for this thing, where you start getting ringing artifacts like you would see in like traditional deconvolution algorithms. But there's so you could adjust the strength with that. There's also a different weighting slider as well, where that could help with that. And then there's a star mask that's also utilized to mask the stars during the multiplicative updates, so it doesn't try to overly sharpen stars and focuses more on the non-stellar features. But yeah, it's so different to normal stacking. You could just essentially forget everything you know about how normal integration works and whatever sliders you've been using for that for ImageMM. What works on one data set may not be optimal on another. And it's all since it is new, I don't have much guidance for you on what's going to work best on your data set either. Like I get asked that a lot too. Like, well, what do you think would work best on my data? I don't know. It's only been out a couple months.
Can you do this combining like LRGB? Can you take all your data and throw it into this and have
No.
it?
So it still creates separate masters. So you'd still get an L master, an R master, and G master, things like that. And in fact, because it's very computationally expensive, like I said, and it works really best with stronger signals in subframes. So I actually tell people, I recommend, if you're going to be trying ImageMM out, to use it on your L channel, your H alpha channel. One-shot color is one-shot color. So broadband, I wouldn't try it necessarily with your dual narrowband stuff. And cooled sensors are definitely going to be better than uncooled sensors. That said, some C-Star users have been using it and really like it. The reason why I say that is if each individual subframe is just really noisy, there's not a lot of signal for the multiplicative updates to improve upon the seed image much with, if it just sees a bunch of noise per subframe. So it is absolutely just really different than normal stacking.
We have a question that's come in here. Let's see. It seems like there's potential for gradient detection and maybe correction during the stacking process. Yes? No?
Yeah, so in SASPro, I have a gradient correction option for stacking. It essentially runs ADBE on each of your subframes prior to stacking to give you like a gradient scale correction per sub prior to stacking, when it's actually doing for the integration.
That sounds very computationally expensive.
It's actually not too bad.
Okay.
ADBE is very optimized. I mean, it was one of my earlier scripts, and I've been tweaking it for over a year now. So it's not too bad. What is more computationally expensive is, I recommend a nice, powerful GPU if you're going to be running ImageMM. But I have Cosmic Clarity Satellite Trail Remover, and that will remove satellite trails from your images that you can run during stacking. And it's essentially, about as computationally expensive as removing stars from an image, right? So if you have that option on, that may take some extra effort depending on how many subs you have. But the other nice thing with SASPro is it's GPU accelerated. So like the integration, ImageMM, calibrations, a lot of those processes can be accelerated on your GPU. So SASPro has a number of processes that are GPU accelerated, integration being one of them.
Frank.
That's awesome.
Frank, I just want to clean up some of the questions that have been popping up in the chat room. Let's go all the way back to John when he says, can it live stack as the subframes are required? And what he's talking about is what we see when we're using software. Planetary software is popular for doing this. And basically, every time a file comes in, it gets stacked in with the existing files. And we see that a lot, planetary work. And StanPro says that Live Stack plugin already exists in Nina. So it wouldn't need to be in your software. And I don't think it is. Is that correct? You don't try to do that?
Oh, it's absolutely in SASPro.
It is possible?
Yeah. I have live stacking, and then for the mono people out there, it could do colored live stacking based on the frames coming in, and then there's various palettes if you're using narrowband filters as well for the live stacking to generate a color palette with that, and then also with my live stacking, since most live stacking just does a weighted average. Mine's a little bit smarter that it actually does live mu sigma rejection as well. So it takes the first 20 frames and then runs the statistical analysis on the first 20 frames it gets in. And then it does live updates on the sigmas around it. So you actually get rejection during the live stack as well.
Okay, Mr. John at Astro, wasn't it? The answer is yes. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, Linda has pointed out that Nina does have its own live stacking that you don't need PixInsight or any other software for. And then Marcia asked a question. Eric has repeated that question about using gradient detection and baby correction. You've answered that question. And Steve Unfelt wants to know if can Frank demonstrate a few 3D anaglyphs?
Yeah, I can.
So before we move on, does this only work for linear images?
What, image MM? Yeah. So again, this is replacing your stacking. So you would have just your calibrated subs going into this.
So it won't work for non-linear images? I have a specific question.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think you can stack linear or non-linear images, right?
I mean, technically you could.
I guess, yeah. I don't know what you get.
If you stretch them all the same, you could stack non-linear images, right? So if you use like statistical stretch on every single subframe first, you could, but most people, I've never heard of anybody stacking non-linear images.
Sure they do. All of us that do solar imaging do exactly that.
No,
they're not stretched. They're still linear. They're just in the middle of the histogram.
Yeah.
Right, they're just in the right. They just have a normal histogram.
Yeah, they're still linear.
I'm sorry, you're right. Right, we don't stretch them, but they are not these cramped little linear images that we're used to.
Okay, so for solar and planetary work, image MM's not going to work since it needs the stars in order to calculate the PSF's variance across the frame.
Well, in solar imaging, we only have one star. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. So no.
That's a joke. I'm sorry.
That said, Eric, SASPro has its own planetary and solar stacker in it as well.
Okay, we have spent some time, but this is something that as soon as we get done here, I'm going to download because I'm curious.
Yeah, and be sure to watch my videos on it. I guess that goes without saying. I have pretty much a video for every single thing in Seti Astro Suite Pro. So be sure to look at those. And then if anybody's just getting SASPro, join my Discord because I am on there all the time, helping individuals, working through any bugs you may find. And the community, I think I have like 2,000 members on Discord now. The community is really helpful with each other. If somebody knows an answer to something that gets asked, they get it answered right away, even if I'm not around. So
I don't mind watching videos as long as I don't have to read the manual.
Which is hilarious because some people only want to read manuals and don't want a video.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, for
guys don't read manuals.
I will say then for you people that like to read, I have a wiki for SASPro. How to, like, if you want to run it from GitHub, how to do the build on Windows or Mac OS, command line interfaces, all this stuff, stat stretch, background neutralization. You know, I got a bunch of things in here. It's open source. So if anybody would like to contribute to the wiki, that'd be amazing because I'll let you know right now, documentation has been the least thing on my mind trying to build this software.
Is there a invite for the Discord channel like on your website or where's that at?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I have this big one right here, and then also just even on the homepage, Discord is right there too.
Cool.
kind of going off image like I said, I have 3D plotting and HR diagrams and what's in my image. And these are interactable. Like you can move this thing around. And then if you mouse over any of these objects, it tells you what it is. You can click on it. It'll take you over to the Sinbad website for that object. Just, more ways to explore your stuff. I mentioned wave scale HDR and dark structure enhancement. PixInsight has their own HDR multi-scale transformer, whatever they call it. I'm probably biased, but mine is better.
We've lost your camera, by the way. I don't know if that was intentional.
Oh, I don't think it was intentional, but
it's not a big deal.
I don't think you guys need to see me.
That's okay.
And then I mentioned I also have Exoplanet and Transit Detector. So if anybody's done any variable star work or exoplanet hunting, I actually have a whole dedicated channel on backyard exoplanet hunting on my Discord. They're finding exoplanets and stuff out there, guys, just from their backyard. And hopefully they'll be getting a grant soon to even get some equipment to continue this. And if anybody's used any of the traditional variable star or exoplanet transit software out there, you got to like choose a star of interest, and then you choose whatever 5 to 10 ensemble stars that are near its magnitude, and then it runs through all the calculations. Then you get a single curve for that star. And I thought, much like everything else I made, why am I doing all this extra work? Why don't I let the computer find all the stars, and then for every single star find 15 stars of similar brightness and call that the ensemble for that particular star, and run the transit detection for all of them in the entire image. And so that's what the Exoplanet Transit Detector does. It finds every single star in your image, finds the ensemble stars for it, and builds the variability graphs for them. And then based on your thresholds, it'll flag the ones that fall outside that range, and then you can click on them. It'll show you the light curve for that particular star. And then I have some other niceties in there, like you can query test cut, which will download the data if TESS has any information on that particular star. So like this one, it just caught my eye. It has this nice variability to it. It brightens and dims. And then opening TESS, it pulled in light curves it had, and TESS saw a transit over here that just looked really similar to this kind of up and down that I was seeing in the star too. So it's always cool to see your data kind of mirrored in professional stuff too. So really see what's going on in there. And then I got like a button to export directly to the AAVSO server, things like that. And this is getting revamped too. So there's actually a graduate student that's working on building very extensive exoplanet detection software, and he kind of took this as a core base, and he's just going to blow it out of the water. And hopefully this will be even getting updated in the next couple of weeks too, beyond what it's even doing right now. So I'm really excited about that. Like I said,
have you been in touch with the AAVSO Exoplanet Special Interest Group?
Not a whole lot.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people who've been asking for this for years.
What?
Well, every time I interact with people and mention exoplanets, they're like, is there like a way to like search your image for exoplanet transits? And the answer is always no. You have to pick a particular one and test it.
Frank?
Not for like the last 6 months.
Yeah, okay.
Frank, when you pick up 15 other comparison stars for your target star, do you do anything to control to make sure that those 15 other stars are not themselves variables?
No, and the reason why it's really not that big of a deal is because it's averaging those 15 stars, right? So if one other star is also variable, it's really not going to throw off the ensemble a whole lot. but there is an option in there to show the ensemble members. If you do have a really good detection and you want to dig into the ensemble members themselves to see what is going on with them, you can do that from within here as well. And then there's some other things too that I don't even think were in this earlier version I'm showing here that does phase fold diagrams and a few other things that are even above and beyond what you're seeing here too.
Thanks.
And
Yep.
you haven't been in contact with AAVSO, and they haven't said we're going to dump everything we're doing now and do it this way?
No, I haven't. I mean, I went on their website, figured out how to do uploads, and ported that into this, and people are using it.
So the data was always there.
Which
data?
The
data was always there on exoplanets. This just digs it out.
Yeah. Yeah, the group doing that's really dedicated to it on my Discord. I mean, pretty much if you have a 5-inch aperture, you're good to go to find exoplanets. And I think that's one of the mind-blowing things to me. Finding exoplanets is a new thing in general, right? Like in the 90s, we hadn't even had a confirmed like actual exoplanet transit yet, and the equipment that we're utilizing is sensitive enough now that a 5-inch scope in your backyard can detect a transit of an exoplanet around a star. And that is just crazy to me that's the caliber of equipment we have. I know a lot of us just make images with, make a pretty picture of the night sky, but the equipment we have in our backyard is powerful science equipment, actually. And I mean, that's part of my goal with SASPro is, sure, I want it to be able to make a nice image. That's absolutely a big thing in there. But I want it to pack in a ton of this other science stuff, because the equipment we have can actually do real science out there. Like exoplanet hunting, transit detection, all this stuff that a lot of people just didn't know or didn't realize how amazing the equipment we have now is, where even 10 years ago, professional stuff was struggling to be as good as what we are getting in our backyard.
So how much more do you plan to cover tonight?
How much what?
How much more in your presentation? Because it looks like there's some very interesting things, and if there's a lot more, maybe it'd be a good idea to come back and show us.
Yeah, I mean, I said when we were talking before the call, I mean,
You could go for 2 hours.
2 hours straight. I do want to touch on, I have planetary stacking and processing in Seti Astro Suite Pro. I do 3D surfaces and stuff, so you could make like these wiggle diagrams. For planetary stuff, I do 3D rendering as well, where you take your data and map it onto an actual 3D sphere and move it around. It was mentioned in the comments about angulifs. You could do that where you could take like 3D glasses, like old school cyan red glasses, and put them on and see your stuff in 3D. And then just a ton of other stuff that's in Seti Astro Suite Pro. Just fun. So live stacking, I mentioned. I have it's like an image peeker, right? Where in PixInsight you can see like the corners of your image, like a 9-tile square like this. But in SASPro, it can do focal plane analysis, tilt analysis, astrometric distortion analyses, things like that. I have an excellent SNR tool. But one that I think is really amazing is a magnitude and surface brightness calculator, where a lot of the catalogs may have magnitude information for like galaxies and stuff, but normally that's the entire integrated galaxy. It's really not surface brightness, like magnitude per arc second squared. And then most nebula don't even have surface brightness levels associated with it. And this is a full, like, I want to say it's like an observatory class program I shoved in here where it's measuring the magnitude of the stars. It's making 0-point fits. It's then calculating the actual surface magnitude of whatever you wanted to measure within your image itself. So it can be really powerful. Yeah.
Frank, I think Eric's question is, wouldn't you rather come back at a reasonable time, like a month or two from now, and show us the rest of this stuff too, rather than trying to dash through it?
Yeah, like I said, I'm easy, guys. Whatever you think would be best.
I think we're it's not really a beginning or an end, but we're getting to the point where it looks like there's a lot more to cover that we'd like to have you come back.
Yeah. Maybe right now I could just do an overview of what SASPro looks like. And then we could have another time I can come back and we deep dive whatever you guys really want.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
We've got people saying on chat, "Hey, let's bring them back. Let's not rush through this." On the other hand, it has been an hour, so
yeah. Okay. I will. Let's see. I'll try to get it in a state of kind of when you first get SAS, what it would look like. No, I want it here, and then this is probably. I don't know. It's probably something like this. When you first get SAS, it's going to look a little crowded. You're going to have panels all around the periphery, and you're going to have some toolbars up here. SASPro is very customizable. You can absolutely pull these panels off, move them wherever you want. You can close them, just a whole bunch of different things. Same with the toolbars. You can move these wherever you want. If you maybe want one on the side, whatever the case is, you could move them on separate monitors. You don't need them here as well. And then something for the people just starting in Seti Astro Suite, you're not going to know what any of these icons are, right? It's new software for you. So I have a command search where when I was first starting with PixInsight, I would have loved something like this. You could literally type in anything you want in here, and it's going to search for it. So even like I don't know, stretch. I could start typing in stretch. It has display stretch, hyperbolic stretch, star stretch, statistical stretch. So it comes up with a bunch of things. Even something like save, checkpoint save, save as, save project. All these different things like that are searchable, which is a big help. And then the structure is very similar to other software out there. You have a file where you can open, save, different ways to save a project. Saving project in Seti Astro Suite Pro saves all the stuff you have open and all the entire undo history. So you could pick up a project where you left off and still have all your undos, redos, open recent images, projects, things like that. Edit, normal undo, redo. Copy paste is a one I really like. And I put that in not too long ago. And so like here's one of my pictures. And if you like copy an image out of something in SASPro, you could just Control V it right in as a pasted image. And I mean, that was a thing that I always wanted in a lot of the software. You could, on any of these, I could Control C and go paste it in something else, or I could use Control V to paste things right into here. Normal stuff, convert mono to RGB, swap R&B channels, things like that. In Seti Astro Suite Pro, I call all this stuff functions. In PixInsight, you might think of them as processes. But these are, curves, crop, convolution, RGB combine, extract, all these different things. Whereas I have tools where those are going to be more complex things that may take multiple image inputs, may just need more input from you, the user. And then similar to like PixInsight, I have things called view bundles and function bundles, which would be like image containers and process containers. Smart tools, these are all your neural net-based tools, cosmic clarity, sharpen denoise, satellite removal, Graxpert stuff, Cycon stuff they're coming out with, denoise, star removal, they got a sharpening coming out. I have an aberration correction in here by a user, his name's Ricardo. Normal geometry stuff, flip, rotate, invert. The one nice thing in SASPro, I'll let you know, is when you do crop an image, it adjusts and preserves your astrometric solution. And I know a lot of you guys using PixInsight, when you go to crop, you immediately see that your astrometric solution will be destroyed. I don't know why they are still doing that. Mine will adjust the astrometric solution based on the crop, including preserving the warp and stuff in there. Same with flipping, resizing, rotating your image. Your astrometric solution will be adjusted and preserved. A whole bunch of stuff for star stuff. This is kind of what everybody was talking about. This is where Stacking Suite lives, live stacking, mosaics, plate solver. This is all your star stuff, star alignment, RGB alignment.
Frank?
Yes.
You know, I'm sure everything is there and we'd love to explore it, but this is like having a full meal after dessert, and now we have another full meal.
Sure.
So I think that we have to get in there and start pushing buttons.
Yeah.
Really end it one by one.
Yeah.
Can we have you back?
Perhaps
to discuss this in some processing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't mean to cut you off. We don't have a hook or a time limit, but I think we've kind of run over our hour a bit.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Right.
So
Frank,
lots of stuff in here. Yeah,
your stuff is worth more than you're giving it right now.
Yeah,
you know, we want to see it, and you're just zipping through like it's a fire hose.
That's all. Fair.
Well, I think it's like a lot of software. When I get into it and go to PixInsight, I'm familiar, but if I get a new person in there, look at it, they're confused. It's like, wait, I have no idea what you just did. Oh.
Yeah.
So if we set up another time, people will probably be prepared and take some time, go into the software, and become a little more familiar, since it'll make more sense to us. Certainly will.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you starting out, I even have like a workflow assistant in here where it has some pre-canned workflows for you, and it has it all laid out, and you could actually adjust all these and make your own workflows in here. But to get like a down and dirty OSC processing done, it tells you kind of what to do and how to do it. So that may be a good stepping stone as well. Something that I wished other software had back in the day too. So if you're just getting started, I try to make it as accessible, I think, as I can.
All right. If you want, you can stop sharing. Linda, yeah. You're running the meeting here, or we think you are.
Well, it passes for it.
By the way, before we forget, we stay on after the end of the meeting. If you'd like to stay on for a few minutes with us and chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I know I've been sitting here watching all this going, I've got to go take a look at that. And I've used some of Frank's scripts in PixInsight, but although I knew SASPro was out there, I had never given the time to learn it. And now I'm going to have to take a look. So, and I think there's going to be a lot of people hitting your download server tonight. So thanks, Frank. And I know, speaking for myself, I'm looking forward to part 2 of this, where we can see some more details. So remember, everybody, we'll see you back on April 19th for David Stearns in PixInsight narrowband processing. And I'm not sure when Frank will be back, but sure Molly will let us know. And so good night, everybody. And
night.
Molly, you can take us out.
Thanks, everyone.
Weeks.
Good night.